What's your red line? That is the most common question solar pros and organizations ask when they learn about Powur. Well, if your red line is over $2 per watt, you should listen to this entire video. Hello, my name is Charles Thompson. I'm the field leader at Powur. I have almost 30 years of experience in the energy industry, and 10 of those years are in solar. I've run national solar sales companies, I've owned a solar company, and I've been part of every economic model in this industry. I've been asked by many field leaders to record this video about red lines versus revenue sharing and cost of goods, otherwise known as COGS. Like it or not, the red line model is rapidly becoming outdated as more and more companies are racing to the bottom of the pricing levels. In this video, I'll explain what the differences are between the two models. I'll share the pros and cons of each, but I want to do it not from the rep or seller perspective, which is often what we all hear. Rather, I would like to look at it from the company perspective and then tie it back to the rep. So what are red lines versus revenue share and cost of goods? They're essentially just solar compensation models to answer this question: where should or where does all the money go? Once a solar project is installed, there's profit or margin. What should the installation company get? What should the solar company get? What should the sub-dealer get? The regional manager, the district manager, the branch manager, and finally, what should the rep get? These two models answer that question and tell and determine how payouts are calculated, but they are vastly different. The main difference is that in a redline model, the margins are fixed, whereas in a cost of goods model, they are variable. And let me explain what that means. Let's say that the cash sales price is $3.60 per watt. In a redline model, the installation company fixes their margin, so they're going to make whatever amount it is that they want to make on every project, regardless of the price that the project is sold at. Let's say their margin is 30 cents in order to fix their margin and guarantee that they will make a certain amount on every project. Then they're going to pass on to the sales company a red line. Let's say it's $2.30 per watt as the red line, which is fairly common. And what this is the installer saying that the entire spread between 360 and 230 is yours to keep and run your business. Anything below 230, you're not making any money on that because that's ours to keep. Well, the solar sales company does the same thing. They lock in 30 cents per watt of margin for themselves and pass on a $2.60 red line, either to the sales leadership stack, to the regional managers, the district manager, or the sub-dealer. And it's the same idea. They are saying that we as a solar sales company make everything below 260, and you go run your business with the spread between 360 and 260. Then the leadership stack or sub-dealer fixes their margin at 30 cents and they pass on a $2.90 red line to the sales rep. And this represents the dollar amount below which he or she, as a rep, can't make money. Interestingly enough, in a redline model, the rep is the only one who has a variable compensation plan because he or she can't approach it the same way the fixed margin does with a company. So the rep will make more or less depending upon how much they sell the project for, not what it costs, because the cost is fixed. That is a redline model. A cost of goods model has all of the same participants, but the margins are not fixed. The percentages are fixed. So each party in the stack takes a set percentage of the deal. The bigger the deal, the more money everyone makes because they're taking a percentage of a bigger deal. The smaller the deal, the less everyone makes because they're taking their percentage on a smaller deal. That, in simple terms, is a red line versus a cost of goods model comparison. So then how does all of this play out? How does this affect you on the doors as a sales leader or as a sub-dealer? In my opinion, there are several ways that a red line versus cost of goods calculation impacts the deals. The biggest one is typically customer pricing. Depending upon whether you use a red line or a COGS model, dramatically affects how you can price your solar deals. The second point is that one of these models tends to lend itself to incentivizing the overcharging of customers for solar projects, and I'll come back to that. The third point is the adders and concessions when there is competition and when deals get tight on margin. How does that play out for the rep and for the company? Where does the money go? Who makes the most money on the deals? Where can it get a little unfair? And lastly, transparency. How much visibility is there for everyone involved and where the money is going in the process? That is a very important question. So let's consider customer pricing. In the red line that I just shared with you, this rep is at a $2.90 red line. What happens if more sub-dealers are added and more tiers are added? That simply means that there are more levels of fixed margin and the red line gets worse and worse and worse. And you often see that where reps find themselves at the end of a 4 or 5 or 6 tier sub-dealership or leadership pricing model. Their pricing is just really crappy. And in those situations, reps eventually look at the leadership stack and start to figure out how to cut out all of this extra weight and get a really good red line of their own. That's why you see so much churn in the industry. But we'll talk about that in a minute. But this $2.90 red line, what it actually is, it's an artificial price floor, below which the rep can't compete. In a redline model, the rep's red line is their break-even point. And even if they go lower than that, they lose money. In a cost of goods model, there's no artificial price floor. The rep can sell all the way down to the baseline cost of goods, plus whatever margin is set to close the deal. So let's say this rep sold a project for $2.40. In a redline model, they would be negative $5,000 on a 10 kW system. In a cost of goods model, they are actually making money. Again, if the red line is below 290, they lose money. In a cost of goods model, if they sell below 290, they still make money. And this is critically important. Imagine this. Alex, the rep, goes and knocks on the door, gets a bill, schedules an appointment, goes into the house. He's there for 2 or 3 hours, does all of the hard work in educating the homeowner, explaining everything, only to have them price shop it and find a better price. The homeowner comes back with that price and Alex says, I can't go that low. I don't make any money. Why would I possibly sell at that price? And realistically, he's not walking away from deals at 290. He's walking away from deals at 310 and 320 because clearly he should be making money on these deals, and 10 to 20 cents a watt simply isn't fair, especially when everyone else is making more because they have a fixed margin. You know, we've all had that experience of losing a deal after we put in all the heavy lifting and we did all the hard work. It sucks. Sellers on a cost of goods model don't have that problem because they can price all the way down to the company's baseline, as I mentioned before, and everyone shares in the revenue, whether it's higher or lower. What happens in a redline model when the deal gets tight on margin, when there's roof work needed, when there's tree trimming, when there's a main panel upgrade, and then this adder comes in, typically while the deal is in permitting and sitting idle for weeks to months, and then someone knocks on the door and offers a lower price. Common. Remember, in a redline model, all of the margin is fixed. So no matter what the installer, the sales company, the sub-dealer, the managers, and whoever else is in the stack, they will make their money. The rep is the one with the variable compensation plan in a redline model. So when adders and concessions kill the deal, it's just the rep that gets crushed. And that is not fair. With COGS, when these adders and concessions come in, they make the deal tighter, everybody's compressing. Because remember, it's percentage based. Since everyone is going to take less money on the project, the rep can still maintain healthy margin. That's the power of this model. And again, because everyone compresses and shares in the downside and the upside on the deal. Okay, so let's talk about the last one, transparency. Some companies feel that they can keep the reps and some of the leaders in the dark where the money goes. But in my opinion, that's an unsustainable model because it assumes that every rep and leader won't find someone that explains to them exactly how margins work. They assume that the reps are always going to be in the dark. And I just don't think that's a sustainable or realistic way to look at it. And that oftentimes is what a red line represents, a lack of transparency. Everyone upstream knows what everyone downstream is making and what the red line is, but it does not go the other way. A rep eventually looks around. They look at the red line, they start to question things. They get a sense of what the actual margins are. They feel deceived. They feel taken advantage of. And they begin to question, where's all that money going? And am I getting the value that I would hope to get from my sales leaders or from my sales company for all that margin that I'm giving up? So they start to look. They look behind the curtain a little bit. They find power. They find transparency. They find that there are other streams of income called revenue share, which occurs when they refer colleagues to leverage the Powur platform. They discover that they can earn stock options. They discover that as Powur grows and creates this flywheel effect, that as the seller gets the lion's share of the benefits, because as those costs are reduced, that creates that flywheel effect. That doesn't happen in a redline model. The company gets the benefit. And just like I was referencing at the start of this video, then the rep just tries to circumvent everything, and you wind up looking like most of what our industry looks like now, where there's just a lot of individual reps working for installers on a red line, and the reps are oftentimes finding themselves at the mercy of that installer and how they manage their money. How many times have reps been owed tens of thousands of dollars and the broke installer doesn't pay them? Then the installer shuts down, pops up under another name, and repeats the same thing under a flawed redline model. Has that ever happened to you? It's happened to me, and I hear about it happening to reps all the time. Powur provides transparency. Powur is the first 100% virtual residential solar company. Powur is the fastest growing residential solar company in the United States. Powur is ranked number 61 of the Inc. fastest growing companies out of over 30 million businesses. Powur is producing hundreds of millions of dollars in revenue annually and is scaling to what we hope will be a billion-dollar IPO. Powur has over 5,000 active independent solar sales reps. Powur is a certified B Corp and balances profitability with purpose. Powur shows you the actual cost of goods, and then we all share in the net margin. Look, if what we have been doing as an industry was working, there would be more than just a few percentage points of eligible population on solar. It's time for transparency and fairness to the seller, who we believe is the most important person in the food chain. So let's do a final assessment. Let's look at customer pricing. In my opinion, the COGS wins over redline every time, because in a redline, you always have that artificial pricing floor that makes it so that you just can't be competitive and where the rep can't make enough money. Being competitive, without a doubt, COGS wins. I believe that in a redline model, the customer is oftentimes being overcharged just because the rep needs to be able to make enough commissions. In a COGS model, that's not necessary. And no one ever feels like they're being kept in the dark, or that they have to go shop around and try to circumvent anything or anyone to get the answers that they are actually entitled to have. So then, why do companies use red lines? To be candid, it's because some feel that it's easier for the rep to understand and it's easier for the company to calculate, particularly in the recruiting process and when explaining compensation. In a COGS model, it takes a little bit of time and a little bit of re-education and understanding that there is a company that offers transparency. Powur will show you transparency. Everything above the COGS is split 70-30 with the seller and up to 80-20 with organizations based upon volume. And here's a question you have to ask. Where is solar pricing headed? Will regulations start to prevent price gouging? Will laws be passed, and will regulators get into the solar space to prevent overcharging customers, like they have in many other industries? Are overcharged customers more likely to cancel, and are they less likely to refer business? And then there is the education and adoption of solar. Solar is only at about a 3% market adoption rate now. It's very uneducated. It's a very unaware market, but as time goes on, it will only get more competitive and homeowners will get more educated, and this trend will continue. It'll eventually become a bought product versus a sold product. The market will shift. You can be part of the solution or part of the problem. If you cannot survive without charging these higher prices, then you're going to be part of the problem, because the industry is moving in the opposite direction. Lastly, let me talk about why orgs are losing reps to other redline programs or to Powur. So let's go back to what my redline is, right? Here's Alex. Alex is at a $2.60 redline. He's working with a dealer and things are going great. But dealer B comes along and says, hey, Alex, we'll get you a $2.50 redline, so you're going to make an extra $100 a kilowatt on every deal. And if you hit your half megawatt goal that you're trying to hit, well, that's $50,000 more this year for doing the exact same thing. Alex says, sign me up. Or Alex finds Powur's transparent cost of goods model. He finds revenue share. He finds stock options. What is Alex likely to do? And who lost in this situation? I believe that the moral of the story is that your red line does not tell you the whole story. Just because you know the red line does not mean that you know which one has a better financial opportunity. You need to factor in other things like adders and rebates from manufacturers and lenders. In a redline model, the company gets all of those benefits, not you, not the homeowner, not the rep, just the company. But not with Powur. The seller gets the lion's share of the benefit. And again, this comes back to transparency. If you know what you're getting paid and it's accurate and everyone's sharing fairly in the revenues, then you're going to be happier. You're going to drive more volume. You're going to have more customers in your pipeline. You're going to get more referrals. You're going to make more money. And you're going to make more impact. With that said, please get back to the person who shared this video with you. Get your final questions answered and become part of the solution that this industry desperately needs rather than perpetuating the problem. Thanks for listening.